To be honest, it's going to be my first time in God knows how many years I'm going to be trying any sort of cheap marker. So it's going to be interesting to see. For all those years, it has generally paid off to use Copic markers over traditional markers, just regular markers you get out of the store. I've seen other videos, I've seen other comparisons. I've never really given it a shot myself. So today we're going to have a chance to do that. To be honest though, these markers don't look the worst. I could have picked worse. I had these at option and I could have bought super fine line tips one, but there's no way I'm going to do an A3 drawing with a millimeter of a tip. So I had to pick these. And these aren't the worst, as you can tell. Probably not the best for detail, but I don't know how good they'll be for blending either. But it'll work. I'll make it work and I'll give it my best shot. I'll give both markers a fair shot. ASMR as we're going. We just finished the Christmas season and here's me with my Christmas markers. Right, let's get right into it. We're going to, by the end of the video, hopefully, we have a clear comparison between my expensive Copics and the regular cheap markers you can get out any art store. And hopefully we'll see if there's any tangible difference and if it's worth the extra price bump to buy Copics. Right guys, so getting right into it. If you're new to the channel, by the way, I'm an artist who from basically 7 years old has dedicated himself into art, and let me just tell you guys, I'm starting this new channel in hopes of actually inspiring a lot more people into art and just kind of showcasing my journey alongside with it. With that being said, going back to the sketch, like I said, we are 100% going to use the eye side for the Copics and the skull side for the cheap markers. And obviously, I do already think the Copics will win. However, we just have to see how it goes. With the actual sketching side of things, the more you're able to lay down in terms of the detail and just the structure of your piece, the easier coloring in gets later on, because then you kind of just know already what you're doing and you already just understand the piece a lot deeper. So it's really important to get this sketching part done correctly, because that just means you get an easier journey further on. So I just really like to show this process here because it's probably one of the most important steps and it just makes the process a lot easier later on. With the sketch done, we can finally move into the fun part. We can finally start putting some color down. And now, let me tell you guys about some of the tactics I use when it comes to drawing eyes. Now, obviously, the pupils are the most important. They are the center of the piece. They are what brings the audience towards the piece. They kind of work like a magnet. It's kind of the smallest part of a drawing, but also the most important in terms of the actual pull and gravitas the piece has. So another thing I can say is I wanted the pupil to be colorful for this piece. Obviously, that's a little bit unrealistic. Not every piece has to be. However, that's kind of the point. I wanted this piece to just showcase the ability of Copic markers as best as possible, and I thought it would be a great way of doing that by introducing some color and variety into the piece. Now, other than that, I mean, something I can also say about drawing eyes is that it's just a very long and tedious process. There's a lot of shading, a lot of blending, and obviously a lot of details. So just take your time, make sure the structure is correct and there's no issues with your sketch, because that's what's really going to help you out later on, like I said. Right here, when I'm working on the skin, I can just kind of point you guys in the right direction. You kind of want to think of the skin as scales. Your skin is actually kind of laid in these diamond shapes. So that's kind of what I wanted to capture here as well. The way I'm doing it here is I'm just layering from light to dark, because you can always go over the lighter colors,
but you cannot go over the darks so easily. It's only in the coloring pencils that you may be able to eventually change the dark Copic colors into something a bit lighter. However, again, it's not as efficient, effective. You just want to work from the lightest to the darkest, and that way you can hopefully move away from any easy mistakes and get the best result. People don't really think about how important highlights are when it comes to these kind of drawings, especially in realism. I mean, the way highlights bring out a piece is just incredible, and I always use Uni Posca marker pens because they are paint markers first of all, so they will go over any Copic markers and coloring pencils with ease. However, the issue with them is they don't dry as fast. So if you're working on your piece, you want to start from the left to the right. Otherwise, you're risking smudging the marker itself with your arm. So that's probably the biggest issue that I can tell you guys. And here what I'm doing is I'm just going over with a Copic fine liner as well, making sure I'm getting all the fine lashes and lines that are needed. Moving away from the drawing itself, it's been really difficult to keep my uploading schedule consistent. I just really hope I can get back into posting because I love the drawing side of things. However, my recent job has just made it so difficult to find the time to actually spend on these pieces. However, hopefully that changes now and I'm able to spend a lot more time on doing the things I love, like these videos, and hopefully playing basketball with some friends because I haven't been able to do that as well. But I feel like that's the issue with a lot of people. They just struggle to find the balance between work and their actual hobbies. Let me know in the comments.
Our Copic marker side is finished! So many hours. Hey, honest note, I feel like I could have spent a bit more time on it, just get a bit more detail up here. I kind of rushed it towards the end, but it is what it is. I can't spend any more hours on this Copic side because it means I have to spend just as much time on the skull side. And one thing I can add is the detail we were able to get is amazing with Copics. But Copics are not always known for just the ability to get thin. Most of the time, Copics are actually used with a combination of colouring pencils because you can block in colour using the Copics and you can add the very detailed strands using colouring pencils, which is why I struggled with Iris here, is because I tried to keep this a colouring pencil free video. It's just Copics so that we get the best idea what's worth it between the Copic markers and the cheap markers.
Alright, let's untwist the Santa markers and get to work. Next up, we are going to do the skull side, and obviously, as you can expect, blending is completely off the table, and the best thing I can do is actually work the other way around, opposite to the Copics. I start with the darks, which kind of give me the outline of what I want to do, and then I layer in with lighter colors that kind of block in the structure of the skull and allow me to kind of skip forward to the vision of what I want this skull side to look like. After this challenge, I want to try something that I've never tried before, which is actually drawing in under 1 hour. Resident Evil 9 has come out a few months ago, and it's probably one of the best looking games for sure that I have seen, and just really want to try drawing one of the monsters from there. However, it's all very difficult, realistic, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be up for the challenge, but hopefully I'm able to capture the stalker because that's the one I was looking for.
Guys, we're done. The results speak for themselves. The Copic markers have won, like expected. I mean, obviously, no one, I believe, really thought that the cheap markers would win. I mean, you're paying for premium, you're paying for a product that's super expensive. You want it to outperform the competition and any other markers that are out there. But I guess with this comparison, we can at least see how much of a gap it really is. So I hope this video served as a guide. I hope now you can make a better decision on what markers to buy and what's the difference between cheap and expensive markers. Thanks for watching.